ready. I'm so ready.
It's great to see you
She
again.
was she was voxing me this morning going, oh, I wish I was there, because obviously we had Mitch Weathers yesterday, we had TJ Very, and of course we were missing our rock star who's a part of the Vibe EDU podcast, which is Miss Kim Gameroz. How was your birthday?
Oh my God, it was so good. I went and hung out with my husband and had a soccer, with my son, and had an easy, mellow dinner and had a margarita, and now here I am.
Awesome. Well, just a little bit about you. You are the change agent and founder of Teaching Inside Out. You have a brand new book coming out any moment, literally any moment, Becoming the Bison. And you have a podcast. You work with educators all over the country. You do a lot of work, obviously, under the SEL framework. And so we just are so excited to have you here with us.
Oh, this is the best. So good. So good. Like, let's go.
Right. Oh, I know. You got stuff. You've got a lot of stuff. We just recently did a podcast interview. Kim was our guest. And so you need to go check out the language of behavior with her. That was the episode with Kim. Oh my gosh. So you get to share it again here. So I'm going to ask you about it. Okay. But so we're talking about behavior. We're talking about how to improve behaviors. So the very first thing I know that you could really talk about is the building positive rapport and the relationships with students starting day one. So how do you do that?
Well, I love like when Shane was just saying, you got to greet your kids, you got to, get on their level and get to know their names and everything. And we can talk about like all of that again. But I was like, really what I was thinking, you guys, was you all listening on this call right now have to know what's really going on in classrooms with teachers, because I have spent the last 2 weeks, especially, talking back and forth with every single educator across the country that's connected in my community. And all we're talking about is behaviors. And every single time they are like fed up, like we're done. I don't even know where to even go with this kid. And it's always the same conversation every time, which is you've got to get to the tricky part. And so if you like have your flare pens out or whatever, like get something out right now and write that down. I need to get to the tricky part. And what that sounds like really is going step by step with whatever focus it is with a certain kid that's really bothering you. So, for example, I'll give you some examples. You want to know like real life? Here we go. So first grade teacher, she's like, this kid is wandering around, not doing their work, not reading. And I was like, okay, stop. Let's just go with reading. We're not even going to go to like doing their work, not math, not social studies, not outside on the playground. I'm sure it's crazy there too. We're just going to stick with reading. And she was like, okay. And I said, what you need to do is you need to break it down step by step. What is the tricky part? And the first thing that this kid has to do in first grade is they have to get their book bag. And so you just say, hey, okay, I totally get it. I know that it's really difficult to like read the whole time. The first thing you have to do is get your book bag. Is that tricky for you? And a kid might say, yes. A kid might say, well, it's over there and it's in my cubby and I can never get to my cubby because this other kid is always in my way. That could be the tricky part. It could also be like, no, I know I can get my book bag. That's totally fine. But next, right, the next thing they need to do is you have to find a smart spot. Is that tricky for you? And in this instance, that was tricky for this kid because what they wanted to do was they always were gravitating towards a certain friend of theirs, which wasn't a smart spot for them. And oh my God, I love the comments. Yes, I love this framing. Yes, take all of this and eat it up, okay? Because I'm going to give you another example too. That was tricky for them. They are always gravitating to a certain kid. And this teacher, I coached her through this and I was like, okay, now we just give them 2 options. Okay, I totally get it. Empathize with it. I want to sit next to my friend too. When I'm in a staff meeting, I want to sit next to Josh and I want to sit next to Charlie because they're my friends. But guess what? If I'm sitting next to them the whole time, it's expected for me to be listening. And I can't do my best listening if I'm sitting next to them. Just like you can't do your best reading if you're sitting next to your friends. And they kind of go, So that, Charlie, is like that collaborative piece, really like getting on their level with the empathy. And then you say, I was thinking maybe you could sit over here or over here. What do you think about that? And they're going to say yes or no and move on from there. But that alone, that is like game changing. Another one, let's go bigger. So that was first grade example. Let's go bigger behavior. Let's say my kid is throwing chairs because that's big and that's scary. It's different than not working, wandering, talking to friends. And so recently we had a teacher and she said, I don't know what to do. Like she's a co-teacher and the co-teacher wants the kid out. And the principal is like, I don't know, girls, you tell me what to do. Like everybody's throwing up their hands in the air. And I met with the teacher and we talked and I said, let's paint a picture of what's really going on. And let's focus on, again, one subject area because we're talking elementary here. And so, you have the whole day. Again, you can only just choose one thing. We chose math. And I said, okay, paint me a picture of what math looks like. And she said, well, it's crazy because last time threw a chair, another time before that, eloped. And I said, okay, well, let's again break it down. Let's just kind of like come up with what might happen during this conversation, an intentional, collaborative, empathetic conversation. I said, what's the first thing that this kid has to do? And she said, well, they have to get out their workbook page and they have to tear out the page. And I said, that sounds tricky to me. If I'm an elementary school student, and even if I am in middle school, I mean, give it to a 12-year-old. I live with a 12-year-old son, and even tearing out a workbook page could be tricky. I mean, I know Mitch and I have talked about even a high school child has a tricky time, has a difficult time putting a page inside of their 3-ring binder. Okay. So just because it might be easy for you to digest and do, doesn't mean that it's the same for a kid. It could be tricky. And so she said, oh, that's tricky for them. And what I said was, well, could you, I don't know, the day before, could you just take out that page for the kid? Could you maybe take out that page for like a group of 4 kids that might be tricky for them? And she said, yeah, that might really alleviate some big issues. And I said, would that maybe keep this kid regulated during the school day? And she said, maybe, yeah, during math time. Perfect, great. Then we continued down. What do they have to do after? Well, they have to put their name on the paper. And what she said was, this kid would love if I like dotted the I in their name with a heart. And by the way, it's a boy that we're talking about, but a boy would still love the heart as the I. And I said, okay, well, could you do that too? And could you put the name on some other kids' pages also? Absolutely. Then we went into like some other options. We just kind of like drilling down, trying to figure out again what might be the tricky part. Fast forward to the day. She goes to classroom, goes through the most of the day. Kid is like, always a roller coaster, up and down. She's riding the wave. Everything, we're playing chess here, not checkers with behaviors. And finally it gets to math. And she does not prep herself. She did not get out the workbook page. And this child, instead of coming up to her or instead of doing anything, went up to the co-teacher and said, hey, can you help me take out my math workbook page? It's like everything that we thought was going to happen. And guess what? Co-teacher was not in that conversation. 2 teachers didn't have a conversation. They didn't collaborate or anything. And the co-teacher looked at the child and said, you can do it.
Oh boy.
And what happened? That kid threw a chair.
Yeah.
It's so interesting when you really can get you guys down to that tricky part. It's like, I literally was telling the future. I could live it and breathe it and see it, but you need to get really, really good at that. That is what I love to do when I get into classrooms. It's that type of work, but it's easy. You just kind of work through, okay, what's the first thing? What do they have to do after that? What do they have to do after that? What maybe is keeping them from staying regulated and then solving that problem together. So anyways, I was like itching to start it with that. I know Josh is like, yeah, we've had conversations like this too, but I had to, like, everybody needs that language.
All right, let's go backwards.
Okay.
Because you obviously are extremely passionate about this topic of SEL. And I know for a fact that you don't believe it's just a program, but it's something that needs to be embedded in the culture of the school. But there's a mindset shift that needs to occur. So why do you believe it is something that needs to be embedded in all things?
Oh, man.
Let's go.
We need to teach social and emotional skills. We can't expect them. And I definitely have, being a classroom teacher, and experiencing how it isn't a lesson. It isn't a one-time conversation. It needs to live and breathe in the systems that run your classroom, but it also has to become you. And the transformation that I have seen in educators all across the country when they now understand that it really is at the root, it's them, it's their tone, it's their tempo, it is those systems, it's the phrases that they're using, it's the front loading, it's the reflecting. I love how Shane said that too. I was like waiting for her to say like the reflection piece. When she said it, I was like, chef's kiss. Like that stuff, that's you. That's a you thing. And you cannot expect kids to just behave or act in expected ways, especially if they're born with a brain that makes things tricky for them, especially the social world. I think, I wrote this in the book in Becoming the Bison because it really is about who you need to become. I wrote about why kids are different. And I feel like that's like the number one question I get when I come and talk to like a school or a district. Usually it's like the arms crossed from the teachers and they're like, why are kids different, Kim? I don't understand. What's with these kids these days? And my favorite thing that I heard at a conference that I'd gone to, man, years and years and years ago, and it still is true to this day, we talked about how our grandparents, our great-grandparents, what toys did they play with? They played with blocks. Think if they were like playing with a fire engine, let's just say, they had to move a block or a piece of wood or a stick or a ball or whatever it was they had to move it around to be a fire engine. And they used their imagination, and they also used the sound to go like whatever it was, right, to make all of that. And they had to like use their motor skills to move it around. Fast forward, then it was the plastic fire engine, right? And it had a button, and the button made it go, and the button made a noise. And it took away a little bit of that imagination and the motor skills and everything. And now fast forward to today. What's the fire engine? And usually the answer with like the teachers, right? It's like, it's on the phone, it's on the iPad. And I'm like, you guys, our kids these days, they're not only watching the fire engine from an iPad or a computer or a phone, they're watching other kids play with fire engines. Like, talk about no more imagination, no motor skills, no sound, no nothing. So of course their brains are wired differently. And then my next question is that going to go away? Are we like going to get rid of the phones like forever? Like ban phones? I mean, my son doesn't have a phone.
Well, I was just saying.
But children will be raised holding phones. Little babies will still be holding phones in their hands. And I can't wait to see really what it will truly evolve to. But if it's never, ever going to go away, then how are we going to evolve? What do we need to do? And again, Becoming the Bison is all about heading into the storm as the bison do instead of running away from it. And what can we intentionally do to create a sense of calm in our classroom where we don't feel like we're constantly putting out fires?
Okay, we've got this like theme going on tonight with like being seen, valued, and connected. So obviously your bison community. Let's talk about that a little bit. So you talk about the power of intentional community, and you do a ton of different things with that. So how do you see SEL tie into helping both the students and the staff feel seen, valued, and connected?
Oh man, I mean, every single time I talk to a teacher from the community and they're upset, it's usually because they don't feel seen or heard or valued. And it's really, really hard when everybody is asking for support as an adult, right? I'm asking for support, but really what they need is they just need to be around their people who really understand. I know I'm going to go back to Shane because she was just talking, like making those connections with people and really understanding where they're coming from is everything. When I go out there into a school and I run alongside a teacher in their classroom, I usually am lower than them, right? And I am just feeding off of them. And if I need to take over, I can and I will. However, it's never in a like a I gotcha sort of a thing. It's I've got you. It's all of that. But our kids also need to feel that, right? It's the exact same thing, which is why I think building a community of adults is very important. but also, of course, your community in your classroom. And that's why I always talk about finding your herd. You need to build your herd. And whether, your school, you're lucky enough to have a school district or a school who values all of that and values that core support and has it somebody like a me come out and support you guys, like it's almost unheard of. And that's why I have another company, Celebrate Good Times, where teachers elect to be part of a community of educators where they feel like they are seen and valued and heard, and it's safe to say, I need help and I need support, so that they can pour into kids.
Okay, so I heard someone complain, a teacher, in regards to, well, this is just one more thing on the plate. And I heard a speaker actually say, well, actually, SEL is the plate. It's not just one more thing added. It's like the basis of everything that we do, which kind of goes in what you're talking about. So, can you kind of talk about some of the misconceptions educators have, and maybe on the flip side, how it actually saves teachers time?
Yeah. So I have a teacher out in New Jersey who we've become so close. And if you knew this teacher in New Jersey 5 years ago before we started this work, she was snapping at kids. She's snapping at kids. She's getting her New Jersey on. And she is a completely different person because of having intentional conversations and providing visual supports for her students, for all of them. And even today, she was talking about how her kids are bugging her, right? They're talking too much. Her kids were bugging her. And she went immediately to, oh, I know a conversation that I can have, a very intentional one. And it's so, so simple. And I know I'm giving away that 25 anchor charts. Like, you guys will love this stuff. You need visuals. You need to know how to have conversations with kids that are really going to support you and them. So it can become the plate. But one of them is just a T chart. So if you guys just do like just a T, and on one side you say, how do we want to feel at school? And you include yourself. In this classroom, I want to feel calm because I cannot do my best teaching if I'm not calm. I also want to feel safe. I think we all want to feel supported. We want to feel empowered. We want to feel successful. We want to feel smart, right? We want to be able to take risks, like whatever your words are, include yourself in there, but then also include their words. And then on the other side of the T, it's, well, what do we need to do in order to feel that way? So we need to listen with our hearts when somebody is speaking. That's more than just listening with your ears, right? It's having a calm body. It's using walking feet. It's keeping my hands to myself. It's cheering other people on. It's having a growth mindset. It's all of those things. And the first time I had done this, I was in the classroom still, but I know I was on my way out to work at the district level, and I had a student teacher. And I left her, as one does, because you got to take over sometime, right? And I had gone into my colleagues' classroom. I know we were talking on the Vibe EDU podcast about how fun would it be to like go into like your friends' classrooms and see what's going on. That's what I got to do. And I remember walking into his classroom with fifth graders, and I came from first grade land, and he was like, help me, Kim. Like, I don't know what to do with these guys. And you had them before. You know a lot of them. And that just came to me. It was just like well, yeah, how do I want to feel in here? And what do we need to do in order to feel that way? And he's such an artist. I mean, he was like drawing like these amazing, beautiful pictures behind me, and I'm having this conversation. And it does become the plate because that doesn't ever go away. You don't ever just not have that conversation. So this teacher in New Jersey, she talked about that at the beginning of the school year. But then again, today, she used it before they went out to go and read to self. She talked about it again before they came down to the carpet. And all she says is, we're transitioning right now. How do you guys want to feel? What are you going to do so that we can feel that way? Maybe it's a reflection piece where they put down their head and they kind of like, give you a thumbs up when they have their idea. Maybe they turn and talk with a partner. I mean, you can do however you want. But when you continuously go to leading with feeling, your whole classroom changes. You change. And I think that, again, is like a prime example of why, yes, it becomes the plate. My classroom can't run without those types of conversations.
All right, so let's have that leadership lens. So if there's a leader here that's watching live or on the replay, and they want SEL to be a part of that culture, what are those first steps that they can do to make sure that that's actually being implemented and be sustainable?
Yeah, I was meeting with a man just last week in Chicago, in the Chicago area, and he was like, "How do I get you to my entire district?" And I was like, "Well, you need to say this. You need to say, do you want a common language across your entire school district?" And he was like, "Well, that's gold." I was like, "Yeah, write that down." Because every single leader, yes, wants a common language across their campus or across their district. We want to be able to talk to kids in the same sort of way. We want to be hearing, like, is it expected or is it unexpected? Think with your eyes. Is your body with the group? Does your body need more space? Like, that's how we talk to kids instead of stop, don't do that. What are you doing? And slamming behaviors. Part two to that is also common systems. So, like, oh my gosh, all of your executive functioning systems that run your classroom. I mean, we are like huge in all of that because it's missing. I know Mitch, like, he preaches that. And as soon as we started talking, I was like, oh my God, you speak the same language too. You're about these systems. That's missing big time. But it's also little things that you can add to your practice. It's visuals that you 1000% need. And we fill in those gaps and cracks so that common systems, common language, whether you're walking through a TK classroom, a fifth grade classroom, third into middle school, it all looks and sounds the same, but it's also anchored in that bison mentality. It's heading into the storm. It is having a growth mindset. It is being intentional so others notice. And that's BISON. But it's also looking at how you want your classroom to feel, how you want your home to feel, how you want your campus to feel, and doing things intentionally so that it can feel that way.
That's great, Kim. You know what? I always go back to what can people start doing tomorrow?
Hmm.
What is something our audience can go back and start doing in their classroom, their hallways, wherever they are? How do they lead it in their staff meeting? What is something they can go back and do? Like the number one thing that's easy to do, but so very powerful.
I think honestly that T chart is the best because I think as a teacher, you could easily do that. How do we want to feel at school? And what do we need to do in order to feel that way? But also, if you are a leader, if you are a principal, you 1000% could have that same intentional conversation with your staff, right? When we're in a staff meeting, how do we want to feel? Because honestly, how many times have you walked into a staff meeting where like people are heated, people are not feeling calm and comfortable, people are dysregulated as adults? And so, what do we need to do in order to feel that way? I think that's incredibly important. I also think part two to that could also be thinking about your kids, you guys, like in your classrooms, or if you're a leader, the kids that keep on coming up to you to your office because those teachers are like, nope, done. And if you could sit there and go, okay, let's think about one time of day. Is it outside on the playground? Is it lunchtime? Is it walking through the halls? Is it a subject area? And getting to the tricky part and really figuring out what that first thing they have to do is. That's hard. I mean, I meet with my community 2 times over Zoom every single month. And the last community Zoom that we had, I had said to them, okay, let's kind of do this together, you guys. And there was like, I don't know, 25, 30 of us on the call. And I said, let's paint a picture. What's the first thing that we need to do? And they were like, well, you just need to like get up, right? You just like get up because then you're going to go to the carpet and they're going to sit down and then you're going to listen. And I was like, no, the first thing you need to do, you need to attend to your teacher. You need to have your listening ears on to even know that you're even going to stand up, right? And they were like, that's tricky. I was like, of course. So what are you going to do? What are you going to say? How can you talk to a kid? And what we decided was we're going to front load and let the kid know with a little tap tap or a little hand signal that, hey, I need to put your listening ears on because we're going to come down to the carpet soon. Like that could literally be life changing for somebody. So first things first, I think that T chart, and then go look at whatever anchor charts, like, I don't know, tickle your fancy, take something and just run with it. But then also think about your kids, think about, those pink flags, as I call them, right? Not your flaming hot red flags. Like, don't start fixing those kids first. There's no fixing of that. So what could you tackle? Your hot pink flags, tackle them and try to figure out like what is the tricky part. I think that's it.
I love that. That is getting their prefrontal cortex ready. There is science, you guys. There's science behind that. It really does work. It is so simple. But that's the thing is even when Shane was talking to you guys are providing all of these great resources and tricks that they work, but they're simple. There's something we can integrate. So that's always our theme with behavior because
Yeah.
otherwise we won't do it. So I love it. I love it. Okay, now in the chat, I just put your resource in there. Can you tell everybody about your anchor charts? Because we've been hearing about it. How can they use this tomorrow?
Yeah, so you guys, my Instagram, Celebrate Good Times. I was just a teacher in a classroom, just kind of like, putting stuff out there and taking pictures of picture books that I was using and, all that kind of stuff. Then companies started reaching out and were like, can you post my stuff? I was like, ooh, if it's good, sure, I'll post your stuff. And then when I moved to the district office, it kind of transformed into this is what's really going on in classrooms and let's talk about that. That's kind of what happened. And then when I moved out to Texas and started teaching Inside Out and Celebrate Good Times and coaching, I just went back to what do teachers need right now? And they needed those visual supports. And they went freaking wild just on Instagram. And so I was like, I couldn't make them fast enough. And then I would walk into classrooms, all over the country and I would see the anchor charts. I'd go, oh my gosh. But are you using them? That's part 2. That's like, step 2 to all things, front loading and reflecting. But I love Circle of Control. If you're familiar with that, that's a great one that's on there. I know. Social emotional chain reaction, you guys, that's also a really good one. So you'll see it. It's like 4 circles on the top, 4 circles on the bottom. And it's about how your behavior, whether expected or unexpected, affects the thoughts and feelings of the people around you, which affects how they're going to react towards you or treat you, which then affects how you're going to feel about yourself. That is like eye-opening for kids, especially kids that struggle with all things social. So you can do that whole class, small group, one-on-one. I love that one. There's like whole body listening in there. I think the key to all of this, though, for everyone listening about anchor charts is you're going to see them. They're going to be cute and pretty and you're going to love it, right? If you're an elementary teacher, you're going to be like, oh my God, this is gold. If you're elementary principal, you're going to be like, let's just print these out and have teachers like do all of them. Don't do it like that. I really want you to just be thinking, what's happening in my classroom right now that's really, really bugging me? And then let me try to find some sort of intentional visual support that's not only going to support them, but it's also going to support me. And then you're going to front load with that baby. And then you're going to reflect after every single time there's like a transition, or you're going from one thing to the next. Those things are gold. So enjoy.
Well, Kim, I don't know. I don't think I've told you, but you were on our podcast and you are now the #1 most listened to episode on the language of behavior.
Sweet.
Well, how about that?
Sweet.
How about that?
I just wanted to share that good news, right? Yeah. Pop the collar, end the episode here, right? So I threw the link in there for folks that are with us. So make sure you check that out because Kim is gold. Everything she says is phenomenal. So we are super excited about your upcoming book, Becoming the Bison, set to publish sometime in the near future. And we cannot wait to celebrate.
You guys, you have to know, I finally got the cover.
Perfect.
Yesterday for my birthday. It was a gift. And let me tell
there you go.
Pretty bold and pretty badass, and I'm excited.
Okay, well, I'll be texting you later for that, and we'll figure it out. But Kim, you're amazing. I love the work that you're doing all over this country. I'm honored to, be side by side with you for the Vibe EDU podcast, and then of course, the exciting news of these Vibe EDU events that you've got going on. So make sure that you're sharing or following what Kim's doing on social media. Make sure you head over to our website, and of course, make sure you grab her freebie. So with that, Kim.
Also, one last thing. I was thinking, because I know Charlie, you said in the email, if you have anything you want to like give away, I love, because I do know that behavior is so tricky. It really, really is. And I would love to give a free 30-minute session to anybody listening. So all you need to do in order to enter into that is to join our Facebook group. So if you're a Facebook person, join over there. It's called Becoming the Bison. Find it. I'll add you in. And then all I want you to do is just talk about your takeaways from listening in here. And then I'll choose one person. I would absolutely love to gift you that.
Wow. That's amazing.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
Yes. Thank you for that.
All right.
Okay. Well, I don't know how your stock rose because it was already at peak level, but Kim, you made it happen. So thank you for that. You're awesome.
Thanks, guys. Catch you later.
Thanks, Kim.
Appreciate
Thank
you.
you.